Hello and welcome back to the 40% Better podcast. Today we have the great pleasure of having Tamara join us to talk about her leadership journey and the cool products that she's building right now and all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Bill, is awesome to be here. I always love talking about leadership journeys because they are never the same and they always have like wild tidbits in there. So I hope mine doesn't disappoint.
Thank you. And that's the whole reason why we do this is because, people realize there's all kinds of possibilities because they hear stories. Like that's, humans work with stories. So the what's the word I want? The scripted, the canned question that I ask everybody is, how did your leadership journey start? And like, how old were you?
Oh my gosh. Actually, so it really did start early. I, at a very young age, started as a dance choreographer. So at like 15, I was teaching, maybe even earlier than that, I was teaching dance classes to little kids.
Wow.
And you become the leader and the mentor to these, little kids. And then at 16, it really took off. So at 16, I was hired by a bunch of different dance studios around the Seattle area to teach dance. And I was teaching all ages, from, 3-year-olds to adults. And I guess you would say that's where it started and really started to shape that I could lead groups of people.
Very cool. That's awesome. Okay. So you're the first person that's been their starting point. Congratulations. I love it. What was kind of the journey that got you into the tech world?
That's that's the question there. You're like, wait, dance
Yeah,
choreographer.
right. There's not a direct line there that I know of, but hey,
No,
yeah.
and the story probably gets even wilder as I will tell it. So I'm gonna try and do the most condensed version possible. So dance choreographer, it took me to Europe. I was dancing in Europe, doing ballet, thought that I wanted to do Broadway. So came to New York, auditioned for Broadway, did pretty well, was off Broadway, but just really hated singing. Like I loved doing musical theater. I hated singing on stage, and the two don't go together, right? That's just not, that doesn't make a good musical theater performer. And so I was wandering the streets, wondering what I was going to do with my life. And I ran into a friend who said, "Hey, why don't you come do documentaries?" And I was like, okay. So I took a job as an intern at a documentary film production studio, started doing documentaries, fell in love with that storytelling, right? It was very much behind the scenes, but you're telling stories, and that really fit how I was a choreographer, creating stories on stage, doing documentaries, creating stories on film. And so I loved that. So I picked up a camera myself. I started filming documentaries. I started freelancing, and then I fell into journalism from there because documentaries were really kind of uncovering, human situations. And so I got pulled on as a correspondent and investigative journalist on air and started doing that, helped launch a few different media companies, and that's where the tech started to come in. One of the companies that I helped launch did financial impact investing news. And so I was interviewing founders all day. I was talking to founders journey, all of that. And when I decided to leave the news, I thought, well, what do I want to do? And I said, well, I want to go help female founders tell their story. So I did that. And then I got pulled into a team that was building a live selling shopping platform as I came in as the CMO. And that's really where then the huge transition takes over from kind of like telling stories to leading companies. That was where then I started to lead the company. And that took off. Then I left, I started consulting in the C-suite, and I I found this problem, which leads me to Empower. So I hope that's the most condensed version of like an unconventional story that actually makes pure sense as to how I got from A to B.
It, unconventional would be the right descriptor there of like, okay. But what's interesting is the serendipity also of bumping into a friend and them going, hey, do you want to?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that you don't have a problem talking with strangers.
Actually, that I feel like that's my superpower. I was just talking to my team about that because we were kind of talking about each individual team member's, greatest strengths, and
Yep.
that was one that came up, when they were talking about me, and they just said, like, "One of the things that you do is you can talk to anyone." I said, "Well, that's why I was hired," right? For most of my career, I've been hired because I can identify who I need to talk to, and I can get in front of them.
Right.
Um
Right.
from journalism to when I was doing documentaries to now then being in the C-suite. So, yeah, and it's actually a skill. It's not something that comes naturally all the time. Like, I honed this skill. When I was a journalist, I learned how to find people and how to communicate with them. So, I think if take a takeaway for anyone listening, if they're like, "Oh, just some people are natural at this and some people aren't." I don't think that's true.
It's 100%. You're 100% right on that. Um, I used to have really bad social anxiety, and I decided that it was both a career and a parenting limiting
Yeah.
problem.
Mhm.
And so I built myself a system to reverse my social anxiety. And now I talk to strangers and I like public speaking. Like I went completely to the other end. Um, but it was, and I've taught a few hundred people how to replicate this now.
Wow.
Um, because I wanted to figure out, initially it was because I wanted to figure out if the system was repeatable or if I just had some weird genetic thing, right?
Mm.
That's always the question, right? Is somebody genetically gifted and that's why they can whatever? Um, and so, and I didn't think I had any genetic gifts, but I wanted the experiment. And so I started teaching people how to replicate it. And the beautiful thing was they all got the exact same result I did.
Yep.
It's like math, right? You learn how to do math. Everybody gets the exact same result when they multiply 7 times 3.
Skills.
Yeah, it's all skills.
I would say 99% of the time, it's a skill. You
Yeah,
practice, you find a technique that works, and then you practice, and you do it
right,
over
right.
and over and over again and feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's a. Um, I can't remember where I read this, but somewhere I read something that fear is the having the negative, uncertain prediction of the future. But if
Ex
you do the thing and you don't have that negative outcome that you were predicting, and you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And for me, I use recipe stacks
Mm,
to get over my social anxiety, right? Little tiny increments, same way as we learn math. Math is just a bunch of recipe stacks that are really tiny.
yeah,
So I did the exact same thing for my social anxiety. And what I found was that for every recipe, someplace around 10 or 15 reps, all of us like that was the number where all of a sudden that was the number where I had no fear anymore at all.
that's
And
interesting.
and so and that's been consistent from the very first 2-minute recipe that I did up to um up to getting up and talking on stage in front of audiences.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So when I used to coach some people on, like, being on camera, and
Mhm.
I would say, "You need to read your script out loud 5 times."
Yeah,
5 times out loud before you even begin to become comfortable. I
right,
think it's kind of the same thing. I like the 15 because, you try and find that magic number
right,
of
right.
of where all of a sudden your comfort kicks in.
Yeah. And so part of the way along here, when I started having to present to executives for for my job, I I was doing my presentations 20 to 30 times recorded
Yeah,
because I wanted to know the places where I was saying and and like and all those other filler words, and also where I lost track of what the presentation was about. And the reps made it so that I could present without any notes.
yep.
And that's when you're confident.
100%, and I think that's the missing thing that so many people, um, forget or try, like, purposely try and overlook when they're uncomfortable with something is you have to put the reps in. And so they think
Yeah.
if they do it 3 times and it doesn't work, "Ugh, it's just not for me." And it's like, no, most of the time, they say, like, to become an expert, it's 10,000 hours, right? Like, no, it's just about doing it again and again and again until you're actually comfortable. And for you, I mean, that's 30 times, right?
Yeah.
I can't I can't count the hours that I did, worked with a teleprompter to get comfortable with that. And now I can sit down and talk anytime, right? Uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, every person is unique, and I think that that's the main takeaway is that you can't just quit when you've done it 10 times and you're like, "Oh, this is never gonna work."
Right.
You just gotta
Right.
push through until you find your number.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that really made it work for me, and there's actually a book on this that I discovered after I'd already done this, called Tiny Habits.
Oh.
It's a psychologist at Stanford who wrote it. Um, and I really wish I'd read this book. Well, I wish I had read the book 10 years before he wrote the book. Right? That would have
Yeah.
been amazing. Um, but he talks about how easy it is if you build yourself a really tiny recipe that seems inconsequential. It seems inconsequential so you actually go and do it. And
Yeah.
then you really feel the like, oh my God, like the first 2-minute recipe that I did, when I did it, I thought, okay, this is gonna be cake. This is gonna be super easy. Like it's dumb that I'm even going down to this granular level. But then when I did it, the first time I went to go do it, I couldn't do it. I was too scared. And I
Huh.
was like, "Oh my god," and I walked away and I'm like, "I just can't do this." And so then the next time I did it, I'm like, "I'm gonna do it." I did it, was like, "Okay, great. 1 rep down. Congratulate myself, high five." And then the next time it was a little bit easier, and at around 15, I was like, "Oh, that was actually super easy.
Yeah.
I need the next level. Now I need a 5-minute thing." And so I just did this building thing, and it was the same thing when I started presenting.
Is it kind of like, I mean, what this makes me think of is when people set huge expectations for themselves, right? Like, I'll use the generic one, which is I'm going to lose 10 pounds this month, right? And so, in order to do that, I need to go to the gym 2 hours a day, and I need to eat healthy, and I need to do this, this, and this. And then the second you don't go to the gym once, everything falls apart. Where if you reverse your expectation and you say this week, I just need to go to the gym every morning. I'm not gonna work out. I'm just gonna go to the gym every morning, and I'm gonna make
Yeah.
it so that going to the gym becomes my habit.
Yep.
And then you start habit stacking on top of that. It feels like that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly it, is little tiny pieces, and again, math is the best model that I know of that everybody understands because we all learn math, and everybody starts with counting by single digits,
Yep.
no matter how far you go up the math stack. And we all learn the system, and we don't even think about, "Oh, wait a minute. I first learned how to count to 3 in single digits." And then at some point later on, they added addition. And again, it's single digits. And then it's subtraction in single digits. And then it's whatever, double digits, right? It's these little tiny increments. And we don't think about consciously what that looks like. But we go from not being able to count to doing calculus,
Yeah,
you know?
that's
And
interesting. I get that right now because I've got little kids and we are literally in that phase
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
where we
And
just
so
graduated to double digits.
yeah, exactly. And so now I think of every kind of problem as what's the tiniest starting point that I can just build on. Like my my younger son wrecked his car a few years ago. Not so badly that it wasn't repairable, and I said, "You're going to fix the car." Like we could total it, but no, you need to fix it, right? You need to learn the skills. You need to be responsible. Um, and his starting point was literally we jacked it up, we put it on stands, and then I said, okay, here's the wrench, here's the socket, that's the screw, go and do it, put it in this bucket. Like that's it. Like I gave him everything, right? And then I said, okay, great. Now you'll see there's 4 more to take this panel out, go and do those the exact same way. Um, that was 3 years ago. My kid's now in an automotive program,
Oh, wow.
loves working on cars. We did a bunch of work on his car this last weekend where I was the assistant. He had everything all figured out in advance. He was like, "Oh, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna, jack it up, blah blah blah. We're gonna take off this subframe, this other subframe. We're gonna drop this out of the exhaust. We're gonna undo the steering. Oh, by the way, I need to clean it." So, like, he had everything all figured out, totally dialed in. But it's because we went through this journey of little tiny steps, and it got a little bit bigger steps, right?
Yeah.
And now he's totally on his own, and he's working at his shop and like trying to add to his knowledge, and he's delighted about it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I love that. That makes yeah.
You just have to figure out what's the incremental pieces for people. And it's like that's how I learned software engineering.
Well, so it makes me think of something that I do, kind of with my team. And actually, it just made me think I have to do this for myself right now because when you're building products, you get so into what's the outcome that we need, um, and you try and race there. And what I always try and do with my team is we think of, okay, what do we need? And then what are the 10 steps that we need to get there? Right. And you do that with
Mhm.
every single thing, right? Like, we need to do our marketing campaign. What are the 10 steps that we need? You need to be able to break it down into these granule things, right? And we forget to do that when we're moving fast. Um,
Right.
and and people who are actually going to get things done do that. They do the micro tasks that get to the outcome that they want
Right. Right.
um, on everything. And so if someone doesn't do that, then you're not guaranteed that the project is going to get done, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
every time we think, I think of, okay, when I need someone to do something, how do I know that they're going to get from A to B? I need to know their microtasks. I need to know that they think in microtasks.
Right. Right.
Uh, and I'm only, joking with myself right now because I normally do that for myself at the beginning of every week. And as a founder moving so fast, it's been 2 weeks since I've done that. And now I can say that's probably why I'm off track
Yeah.
in what I'm doing. And I actually started using a program called Motion, with Motion AI, which helps with that. I put in the project that I need, and AI helps me come up with all the microtasks and also the time that it takes to do that. So, like, it'll block my calendar for 2 hours if I need to do, a new deck, or half an hour if I need to do email catch-ups, right? So it's really good at helping with that. But I realized, man, I haven't done that, and you got to if you don't do that, you don't get things done.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a great segue to the next question that I just thought of as you were talking. How do you get that perspective into everybody's heads where they are automatically doing that to make you comfortable?
Yeah, it's actually a conversation that I'm having with my team right now, right? Because whenever I've advised companies or started up my own, everyone's at a different stage in how their systems are set up, and I'm a
Mhm.
huge systems person, right? And everybody has their own
Yep.
preferences. And so I've never said there's a one size fits all system for any startup because you have to work within how people like to see things. So right, so like I've worked with founders that love Trello or love oh my gosh, there's one that I don't like at all because it doesn't work.
Jira.
Jira, but there's a different one that I just can't think of off the top of my head in the moment. But the it's all these productivity apps. Um,
Mhm.
they look differently, and what you'll know and see is like neurodivergent founders can only handle different types of setups, right? So it's not so when you're setting up a system, it has to work for the founding team, and it
Yep.
has to for how they see things. And so, like, I've set up for me, Airtable worked really great for a long time for certain structures, right? My team now hates Airtable, right? Hates it. And
Oops.
so and so we have to set up our system differently in how we track things because I always tracked it. It worked for me. It worked for my brain. Like the way I saw things. It, you know, um, I also work with someone else who just like ClickUp. They might like, they love ClickUp and it works for them. So I have to figure out how to work within that system. And that's how we track our tasks. But so as we set up our system, you have to see how the team members see things and how they process it. And so um and then you structure in where are you tracking it, right? And so for our system, I mean, we've got so many things that go from, A to B to C to we use Confluence, we use Jira, we now use Claude, Coworker that feeds stuff in there. We've got one team member that loves Notion, and so we we actually have things going between Notion and Jira so that the whole team can see a transparent task management system.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but again, it's so different than any other system that I've used because with different teams, they liked things differently.
Right.
Where ClickUp to, Slack to and that's okay because if a team can move quickly and at least you can see the tasks and how they're flowing, it works as long as you have that system in place. I'm not sure if I answered your question totally, but it
Yeah. You did. And that's, part of what I'm hearing is there's this flexibility in your perspective where you care more about the end result than you do necessarily about the path that's taken. And you're willing to let people be um, flexible in how they're getting there. And obviously there's some place where you've got a dashboard and
yeah,
you can see everything, right? And you're like, oh, okay, here's all the stuff that needs to be done. Here's all the micro tasks. That totally makes sense. And somewhere along the way, you've also got individual responsibility for making sure that they're getting all the data in there
yep,
so that you can look and go, yeah, I'm comfortable that Mary's got this all figured out and we're not going to have an oops because step 5 isn't delineated.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because at some point you pick your system, right? And then as people come on, they have to work within that system.
Right. Right.
But if your founding team is not working well within the task structure system,
Mhm.
then things fall apart.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have to figure out, if someone really doesn't like something and there's such a big learning curve, it's not gonna work for the whole team. Again, where you draw the line is eventually once you pick it, then the people who are coming in have to work within that system. So
Right.
hopefully you're
Right.
structuring it in a way that it is easy to use. Because I have worked in some task management systems where, whew, like you're spending more time doing that than you're spending doing the work, and that's so counterproductive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be a net positive for the team. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Um, have you gotten to the point yet where you're teaching them a framework that's kind of trying to think what like a foundational framework
In
that
what
works across? So I came up with this foundational framework years ago that I did. And when I first started doing it, I didn't realize that I actually had built a system. It just was what I was doing, right? But I came up with this framework that I applied uh, everywhere, and it worked really well for me. But even more important, it worked really well for the team.
mhm,
Where it was kind of um, it's the here's the baseline that we operate from, right?
yeah,
And a lot of it was what I'm responsible for as the guy running the show, right?
yeah,
It's the first part is and I was very deliberate about this. It's my mental models
mhm,
that I can talk about so everybody can understand why I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, either because people on my team or the executives, right? Like I can go either way with this conversation, but it's very deliberate so that people understand the why behind, Bill's team is going down this road, right? Or
Yeah.
Bill is going down this road. What's going on, right?
You mean like
Um,
so I think I usually call them values.
it could be values also. Yeah. So one of my mental models is that um, as a team lead, my number one priority is helping everybody else on the team be more effective. And
Uh-huh.
that means they have to be happy first and more productive second, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the North Star.
Mhm.
The second one is that there's going to be things that I have to do to achieve the first goal that are going to be emotionally challenging. And I have to be able to manage my emotions effectively enough to go do all those things. So I've got to build a whole stack of emotional resilience skills that are
Yeah.
transferable. And so anybody else that I'm working with, when they bang into something they're afraid of, right? We can talk about it. We can break it down to the micro pieces, and I can explain to them how to manage their brain chemistry
Mhm.
so that they're not afraid, so that they can work through the thing. Like this is part of what I had to do for my social anxiety, right?
Yeah.
With because fear is just brain chemistry, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the baseline framework. Um, Making communication a very deliberate, very specific set of like I'm sure stuff that you've done um falls under that. But one of the things I found was that folks in the tech world, um, trying to be politically correct here, um, they don't always think about communication as being a skill set that they need to hone the skills like they would writing code. And because of that, they run into problems because their communication is not as effective as they think it should be. Like they don't understand why they go and they talk to somebody and they don't get the results they want, but it's because um, they're not skilled at their communication. And I went after like part of my baseline is figuring out how to make sure that that communication always works. And again, so I can transfer to other people, right? It's all about knowledge transfer. Like
Yeah.
part of my scaling model is all this baseline stuff. I need to be able to teach everybody on the team because then they can become more effective,
Yeah.
right? It's very, I'm very much a systems thinker also. For me, everything in the world is a system.
Yeah.
Um, and if I don't understand, it's because I don't understand the system yet. I just need to start breaking it down, right? Um, so I need to be able to explain the communications, and then the other part is there's nothing above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Which I hear people all the time go, "It's above my pay grade. I can't touch it." And the reason they say that is because they don't have the right mental models. They think talking to executives is too scary. They don't have the communication stack. And so for me, this has kind of been this fundamental baseline layer that everything else goes on top of. That's the foundation layer. Um, because I can transfer it to the people on my team, right?
That's funny. I don't use the same term, but I would say that I try and instill in all my teams that there's nothing below my pay grade. Like you should be able to do everything and pitch in when needed, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know, um at my last company, I would be carrying in all the boxes to the conferences, right? To set up the tables and there's nothing above, there's nothing below.
Right.
It's you do what's called on at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Um, which is it's essential, especially for now. I mean, I've worked in the huge corporations, but now I work with lean startups.
Mhm.
And as you scale, the mentality has to be, we rise together
Yeah. Yeah.
because startups are challenging. They're
Yeah.
fun.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think somewhere in somewhere in the growth process of companies, and this kind of Clay Christensen's book, Innovator's Dilemma.
Mm.
He talks about this, where as companies grow, they hit an inflection point where rather than hiring people who are um, really focused on growth and building the company and the kind of the startup mindset, they start hiring people that are more concerned about safety. And then the innovation slows down, and
Yep.
people that are concerned about safety will hire people that are even more concerned about safety. And all of a sudden you hit stagnation.
Protect what we have.
Yeah, protect what we have. And he talks about all these companies that don't exist anymore, or they're shadows of what they used to be, because they were out innovated, even though they had, like, the classic example is Xerox Park
Mm.
had, they had the GUI, right? They had the mouse driven computer stuff back when everybody was just on command line, and they didn't think it was valuable in the world. Steve Jobs saw it and was like, "Oh my god," and put it into what became first of all, uh, I think the first Apple computer actually had a mouse. I know the Lisa did, and then the Mac did, but he saw the possibility there, and now Xerox is a fragment of what it used to be. But that whole thing of, like, being really careful as the company grows
Mhm.
to recognize the the safetyism. I'm not sure if that's actually a word or not.
Yeah, I like it though.
But you have to be, it's like, how do you avoid that, right? And I don't know that any company has done an amazing job of being um, anti-safety and growth at the same time. Like keeps Apple keeps leading the marketplace, but part of their juice is they never innovate.
Hmm.
It's not brand new. It's aside from, even when they did the GUI, right? They borrowed somebody else's idea. Um, they're always doing a more elegant version of something that someone else has already invented.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, the wearables and stuff are interesting and new. But, yeah, I would have to think more about that, like, is there the case for a company that continues to innovate in a way that pushes boundaries? Um I mean,
Right,
the only company that I can think of that, like, has done some cool stuff, but I don't even know if it falls in this category is, like, Notion. Like, Notion is really leveraging AI and AI workforces to push boundaries, but I don't know if it's not safe, right? Like, it maybe is still pretty
right,
safe. That's an
right.
something interesting to think about.
Yeah. Are you familiar with IDEO?
Oh, I love IDEO.
Yeah.
I did fellowship with IDEO when I was 28.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're built on experimentation culture.
Yeah.
And I think, but they're a consultancy that doesn't really have their own products
Mhm.
versus a company that's actually got a product. Um, unless you're a super low volume company, um, you're and if you're super low volume, most people don't even know that you exist, right?
Yeah.
You know, um, you become a very niche kind of name. Um, and I think that's one of the places where you still have people that are doing very cutting edge, very out there on the perimeter kind of things. Just nobody knows about it. It's kind of like uh God, I'm totally spacing on the guy's name. Oh, um um Anduril Technologies. Um
I
you don't know. Yeah, they're
no.
they- they're a new technology, they're a new defense contractor company
Okay.
focused on being very much technology. Palmer Luckey, the guy that invented Oculus,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, he invented Oculus, um, got acquired by Facebook for a couple $1 billion and then got fired from Facebook because of his political donations.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember this.
yeah, you remember the story. So then he went into the defense space, and now he's making all these drones, um, completely different mental model and frame than everybody else in the defense industry.
It's interesting.
Um, yeah, and and if you ever hear his interviews, it's completely logical, totally makes sense, but it's completely the opposite of what all the other defense contractors are doing.
Hmm, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
And it's a success. I mean, there's something to be said, you know, the word disruptor was so popular back in, like, 2016, right?
right, right.
And then all of a sudden it became a bad word where, like, no one wanted to be considered, but I think disruption is so important. And
Yes,
and being, you know, being a founder who is from outside the industry, seeing something and going, "I think I can fix that," is, like, really important. And
yeah,
so you do have to get the mentality, and people should get comfortable with, you need people to come in and shake things up, and that normally
exactly.
come from within. And so also having the mental, capacity or thinking as just a person, if you've got an idea and it's outside of your scope of expertise,
Mhm.
that's okay. Try it. You could
Yes,
be really good at it and you could be just what the industry needs. So, I think that there's something about we need to change our mindset on that and embrace that word disruptor again.
yes, I 100% agree. Yeah, yeah. I think uh, it goes back to being anti-safety
Yeah.
and really, I think of it as playing with the fear because when you're disrupting, you're probably going to be afraid of some like, am I wasting my time? Are people going to laugh at me? Is this going to work? Am I wasting my money? And you just kind of got to embrace that and be like, okay, this is the
Yeah.
game, you know? Yeah,
Yeah, I have something special that I need to impart on this world.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
And, I'm gonna do it until proven wrong.
right. Yeah, yeah. And that's a, I think it's the power of taking risk, which based on your track record, you seem really comfortable with.
I think it's a uh,
Yeah.
learned behavioral, acceptance, right?
Mhm.
I would definitely say in my 20s, I risk was terrifying. Um, as I got into my 30s and now older, um, yeah, my understanding of risk is totally different.
Right.
My
Yep.
understanding that failure is a step towards a destination changes the way I behave because I'm not afraid of the big risk, knowing that that could lead me to something that's even better 2 steps away.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So I actually encourage my kids, and they hate when I ask this question at the dinner table, but I don't ask it every night anymore. I used to ask it every night and they hated it. But I say, what did you fail at today? I want to know that they are
Yep.
taking a risk and that they are okay with the fact that they will not be the best all the time because it's
Right.
not about the failure, it's not about falling down, it's not about any of that. It's about how they handle it, get up and do something about it.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because thinking back to your origin story, like every one of those nonlinear dot connections
Mhm.
was risky.
Yeah.
And and yet, you looked at those and were like, okay, it's worth it. And clearly it worked out,
It
you
did.
know? Which I think I think that's the big takeaway is there's a huge benefit in taking that kind of risk, um, and 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 going for that ride.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and seeing it as
yeah,
opportunity.
exactly. Yeah, it's all it's
Opportunity.
that's the I don't think people often enough will tie together risk and opportunity in their heads. because opportunity is very beneficial. And I think for too many people, the word risk, they immediately jump to the fear side.
Yeah. Well, you say big risk, big reward, right? And
Yeah.
you think of it then as like, oh, something risky and I'm going to have this huge reward on the other side potentially or, or not. But when you think of reward, you don't necessarily think of personal growth or
Right. Right.
a new journey, right? You kind of think of reward as something that's either monetary or asset based, right?
Mhm,
Not
mhm.
experiential that could lead to something even better. Um,
Right.
and that's where I've always thought about my risks is my risk are something that can educate me and personal growth to the next level that I need to be at.
Yeah.
If it doesn't
Yeah.
have that, then it's not a risk I want to take,
Right.
right?
Yeah. You have to see
So
the reward. Yeah.
yeah,
You have to be able to understand the carrot.
I didn't understand this in my 20s during the early part of my journey. Right?
Oh,
I
interesting.
understand it now later as I've entered kind of like the later stages of my journey, and that's why I say it's a whole new way of perceiving risk and perceiving failure and all of that that changed my stress level, right?
Mhm. Yep.
I
Yep.
no longer get on a client call and think, "This is the one client that's gonna change my life."
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
stress out about how I'm presenting and stress out, like I understand that that I could do a great job on this call or I could fall flat on my face. Either way, it's going to lead me in the direction that I need to go, and I have to take some of these risks in order to get there.
Right. Yep. 100%. I'm looking to time. You've got a clock ticking somewhere. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.